It's the constant doubling down of the other, right? Of people who are not like them. And it's a dangerous, dangerous sentiment to be putting out there, because what it does, it riles up his base, right? It riles up people who are, thinking about, oh, these folks, these other folks are bad. And we see that. We see that with the increase of folks going out there and wanting to, hurt other people and his political, who he sees as his political enemies as well. So we're living in a dangerous time, and to have the President of the United States and his administration leaning in on that is incredibly dangerous and scary.
Well, continuing with our theme on willful ignorance, earlier this week on MSNBC, Hillary Clinton commented on recent statements by Republicans, including Attorney General Barr, where they seem to say that using information from foreign powers in elections is permissible. To point out how absurd she finds that position, Clinton offered a hypothetical about whether Republicans would find it okay if Democrats called on China to launch cyber attacks to uncover President Trump's tax returns, mimicking Donald Trump's calls for Russia to hack her emails in a July 2016 news conference, which the Russians immediately acted upon, according to the Mueller report. Now, Fox News played part of Clinton's comments for Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who then claimed that the statement doesn't, quote, sound like something President Trump would do. Take a look.
Why should Russia have all the fun? And since Russia is clearly backing Republicans, why don't we ask China to back us? Not only China, if you're listening, why don't you get Trump's tax returns? Let's have a great power contest, and let's get the Chinese in on the side of somebody else.
I hadn't heard those comments before. They don't remotely sound like what ought to be done by America, and they're certainly not what President Trump and this administration can do.
I mean, seriously, Mike Pompeo, you're the Secretary of State.
And
you're just lying. You're lying because you think, what do you think that only Trump viewers are going to see that? I mean, how stupid do you think they are? Why do you insult their intelligence, Mr. Secretary? We all remember what Donald Trump did during the campaign. But since you don't, since you claim to have missed a major international news story that has remained a subject of intense interest for 3 years, and also, by the way, also actually spurred the Russians to start actually trying to get Hillary Clinton's emails. Here are Donald Trump's comments that you know all too well from July 2016.
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. I think you will probably be rewarded mightily by our press. Let's see if that happens.
Walter Isaacson, they're just bad liars. I mean, William Barr lied to Charlie Crist. He got caught lying to Charlie Crist. He committed a crime in front of the entire nation, and now he's claiming that he didn't do so. Mike Pence lied to the American people, said that Donald Trump was the greatest protector of religious freedoms ever. That's a lie, of course. In fact, no president has been as hostile towards people of faith as Donald Trump, given what he said in December of 2015. And then you have Mike Pompeo there saying, my God. First of all, of course, they chopped up Hillary Clinton's interview and made it very clear. I mean, it made it seem like that's what she was proposing when all she was doing was saying, well, this is what Donald Trump did. What would Republicans think if we did this? But then Pompeo lies to the American people, clearly knowing that he's lying. Everybody knowing. How do we sort through all this? That three of the most powerful people in the United States of America are liars, have lied to the American people, and they know that the American people know that they're lying.
I think that's one of the issues that is going to be really important in the next election, is the overall corruption and stench that comes around the White House. And you take people who, were in previous positions, pretty straightforward people like, a William Barr, but people who spend their time sucking up to Donald Trump is like sucking up to a skunk. You're going to end up smelling real bad. And this is what's happening. There's a stench coming out from all of these people who I think, you know, have gotten in that orbit of Donald Trump, and they can't help themselves from trying to just please him and be obsequious and say things they know aren't really true. And the other thing about, you know, what Hillary Clinton said, we always have to ask ourselves, as she did, what would it be like if it had gone the other way, if the other side had done it? And when Fox chopped up that interview to make it seem like she was calling for China to hack, that is degrading our discourse, because it keeps us from that moral question of, would I have been in favor of this type of activity if my opponents had done it?
Yeah, and Reverend Al, we've had the word Orwellian thrown around a lot through the years, but it is Orwellian. It is the work of dictators to lie openly to their people when their people know that they're lying, and they're trying to lie enough that the lie becomes truth. You look at Pompeo, he knew he was lying. The person that listening to him knew he was lying. The viewers knew he was lying, but he didn't care. He was trying to turn that lie into a truth. Mike Pence knew he was lying. He remembered the Muslim ban, Donald Trump's proposed Muslim ban. I mean, again, it's time and time again, just like Barr. Barr lied for the past several days. Knew he was lying. He lied to Charlie Crist. He lied to the House. He lied to Van Hollen. He lied to the Senate. He committed a crime, and they just don't care. I mean, this is how totalitarian. I'm not saying they're totalitarian. I'm saying this is how totalitarian leaders and their cronies work.
But in the past, in history, you know, most of the totalitarian leaders and dictators operated before we had social media and YouTube. I mean, you can't get away anymore with just saying something, particularly if you're a head of state, and act as though you didn't say it. What I really question is how men and women who have built their whole lives to establish some kind of stature and credibility would put all of that on the line for someone who has so lowered the bar in government and public service that they would end their careers identifying with that. I mean, there must be, Joe, a self-esteem problem for you to have the kind of background they have and going and submit to someone that you know is pathological, and that you can't even think on your feet to rationalize some outrageous lie he's told. The problem they have is they have to deny knowing it, because there's no way you can make a rationale out overt 180-degree turn that this president makes. For those of us that's known him, as you and I know, that's who he is, and he could care less about other people's reputation. The problem is, do they care about their own?
You know, there is that, Joe.
The thing that they don't understand, Mike, is that, I think it was Mike, what they don't understand is, again, he's going to be out of office in a year and a half. And then they have the rest of Mike Pompeo. All the lies that Mike Pompeo has been told are going to be shouted from the mountaintops for the rest of his career. Who's going to hire him? All the lies that Mike Pence have told, all of the compromises that he's made, shouted from the mountaintops for the rest of his life. He will be branded as someone who lied for Donald Trump for 4 years. So why do it? It remains a mystery.
Well, Jim Comey wrote about it yesterday in the Wall Street Journal. We've been talking about it for 2 years. It goes on and on and on of the various cast of characters. The latest, obviously, are Pence, Pompeo, Bill Barr. But at its core, Joe, what we're talking about, and it struck me during this segment, at its core, and it's been the core of this story since the day he came down the escalator at Trump Tower, at its core is his whole life and his campaign for the presidency and his behavior in the office is fear of the other. America, especially white guys out there, fear of the other. They're coming for your paycheck. They're going to endanger your neighborhood. They're going to endanger your children. Fear of the other. And that's why, to get back to that gender number that we showed earlier, the 62% of women who disapprove of Donald Trump, that number is set in cement. And he's playing really with 41% of the people, maybe less.